So, today we're going to talk about a really powerful mental model. It's something that affects everyone, from elite athletes to top executives. It's called the false summit effect. And honestly, understanding it could completely change how you tackle your biggest goals.
I want you to picture this. You are 600 kilometers into one of the most brutal endurance races on the planet, the Great Himalayan Ultra. You are absolutely exhausted, you're pushing past every limit you thought you had, and then you see it. What looks like the final climb. The cyclist you've been coaching stops pedaling. She looks over at you, and you can just see the relief flooding her face as she says, "We're almost there." You know, in her mind, the race is done. That finish line is just over that ridge. But you know something she doesn't. You've seen enough mountains to know an illusion when you see one. This isn't the end, not even close. There are still 80 brutal kilometers to go. You haven't reached the peak, you've just hit a false summit.
And that's exactly the gap we're going to dive into today. The one between what we think is the finish line and the reality of the journey that's still ahead of us.
So let's get specific here. The cyclist, her name is Niharika, had gone from doing casual 25K rides to competing in this insane Himalayan Ultra. I mean, what an incredible achievement, right? But here she is, 600 kilometers in, and her belief that the end is near is crashing head-on with the reality of 80 more punishing kilometers. And here's the kicker. Those last 80 kilometers, they weren't just a physical challenge anymore. The real fight was all psychological. See, in her mind, she had already arrived. She'd crossed a finish line that didn't actually exist, and her body was basically beginning to shut down. This brings us to what we call the false summit effect. It's that moment of premature celebration, right? That feeling of, I've made it, only to be followed by that crushing realization that the real peak, the true challenge, is still way up ahead. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is for mountain climbers and ultra cyclists. But no, this exact same thing happens everywhere. It shows up on those treacherous mountain roads for sure, but it also shows up in our own professional lives, right in the middle of corporate boardrooms. So why does this happen, right? Why do our brains trick us so easily into just stopping the climb? Well, the answer isn't in our muscles, it's all in our neurology. Let's break down this mental trap.
I mean, think about the career milestones we all chase. That promotion to VP you worked years for, the director who just absolutely crushes their quarterly targets, or that senior leader who finally gets the invite to the C-suite. Every single one of those feels like a summit, right? Like a final destination.
But here's the central idea we have to wrap our heads around. Every single one of those achievements, every new title you get, is just another false summit. It feels like the end of the road, but it's really the starting line for an even tougher climb. So what flips that switch in our heads? What makes us suddenly feel like we've arrived? It all comes down to one thing: external validation. A promotion, an award, some public praise. These are the very things that trigger that neurological trap. And this isn't just a hunch, by the way. This is backed by some incredible research from the psychologist Carol Dweck on the whole fixed versus growth mindset idea. She shows exactly how that external validation can cause this massive shift in our brain. So when you're in the thick of it, when you're climbing, your brain is in what we'll call growth mode. You're all about learning, putting in the effort, getting better. But the second you get that external validation, bam, your brain can flip into protection mode. And suddenly you stop thinking about the next climb. Instead, you start worrying about defending your new status, your new title. You become terrified of failing. So let's be absolutely crystal clear about this. The mountain didn't change. The road didn't get any shorter. The challenge is still there. The only thing that changed was what was happening inside your head. The false summit isn't a physical place, it's a neurological event. Okay, so understanding that trap is step one. But step two is to completely recalibrate how we think about progress itself. We have to adjust our own mental map to see the true scale of the journey. And this brings us back to that fundamental question, right? If we're moving forward, why does every win just seem to reveal an even bigger mountain to climb? Why isn't it just a straight shot to the top? Well, this visual really tells the story. The amount of effort that got you your last promotion is not even in the same ballpark as the effort you'll need for the next one. The scale of the next climb often completely dwarfs the one you just finished. And that, right there, is the hard truth about real growth and ambition. The skills and the mindset that got you that director title, that's just the price of admission for the climb to VP. The next challenge is always longer. It's steeper and it's way more demanding.
Okay, so what do we do about it? How do we actually get our heads back in the game after we've mentally checked out at a false summit? For that answer, let's go back to Niharika's story.
Look, the physical training was done. She had that in the bag. The real work, the coaching challenge that mattered in that moment, was 100% mental. It was all about pulling her out of that feeling of arrival and getting her eyes back on the road that was right in front of her. And the result of that mental reset? Well, she got back on her bike, she pushed through those last 80 kilometers, and she didn't just finish the race, she finished first, number 1.
And this is the ultimate lesson of endurance, really, whether you're on a mountain or building a career. Your sense of having made it, it's just that. It's a feeling. It's all internal. The road, the project, the next big challenge, it doesn't care how you feel. It's still there, and it's waiting for you. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What false summit in your life right now are you mistaking for the final destination? Just take a second to think about your own journey, your career, your goals. What promotion or achievement feels like the end of the road for you right now?